Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today. Especially in this climate today, we wanted to address the fact that it is pretty uncertain in the world, and we wanted to make sure that you guys can see us, and we're embracing working from home and isolation and making sure that everyone around us stays healthy. So please stay healthy, take care of your families, and take the time to collaborate with partners like us. We're here to answer any of your questions and really promote the fact that we are coming together as a community, and we want to ensure that all of you get the value out of this webinar. But to start off, I wanted to quickly brief what we're doing here today. This is a new webinar series that Copper has launched, and we have our first partner joining us today. I'll show you guys, you can see us on the screen, but just so you can see who's who. So quickly to introduce everyone, my name is Olga Laikova. I'll be your moderator today. I am the VP of Partnerships at Copper. Also, I'm joined by Wyndham Hudson, who is the VP of Product for Copper. He has a nice little kitchen in the background and the couch, so enjoy the view. We also have Marcus. Marcus is joining as a co-founder of Outfunnel, and Paul, who is the Chief Sales Officer from Defeat International. So quick information about what Outfunnel does and who is Marcus. Outfunnel is a sales-centric marketing automation platform used by hundreds of businesses around the world. Outfunnel helps become better in both sales and marketing after just minutes of setup, and does it in a fraction of a cost compared to the alternatives. So for the agenda for today, you will hear from product leadership. We'll have a quick Q&A. You'll also hear from our customer, Paul. Paul Willerton is a Chief Sales Officer at Defeat International. Defeat International is the finest socks and accessories for cycling, always made in North Carolina. So if you need socks for cycling inside, make sure to go and visit their webpage after this webinar. So quick overview of what we'll be covering today. We really want to focus on the key best practices. And when we were talking about this topic, we had identified three essential best practices. Number one is how to identify your hottest leads based on how they engage with emails and what they view on your website. Number two is how to automate your email marketing based on the data that exists in Copper account without ever leaving Copper or Gmail. And number three is how to increase your sales productivity by drastically reducing the time it takes to compile lists for lead nurturing campaigns or customer newsletters. So we will cover all of that in a bit more detail once we go into the Q&A. In the meantime, if you guys want to ask any questions, there's a Q&A portion on the bottom, so please feel free to drop them in there. We'll cover them as we go. The overall duration of the webinar will be about 30 to 40 minutes, depending on the Q&A. But again, this is for you guys to really understand what to do when it comes to bridging the gap between sales and marketing, and what does it actually look like. And at the end, we'll wrap it up with a demo so you guys can actually see and feel what the solution looks like in a nutshell. All right, let's get started. Are you guys ready? All right, awesome. All right, so for Marcus and Wyndham, first question. We keep hearing productivity trends, and it's the new buzzword in the market. How do you two define productivity? Let's start with Wyndham.
Cool, thank you, Olga. Obviously, I'm going to answer this from a product perspective because I'm a product person. So it's interesting when you look at productivity. It's a really loose term in the market because it refers to any tool that can make you more productive. And technically, if you go back to kind of the dictionary definition, it means that your rate of output per input goes up. So it makes you more effective, basically, as people today. It can range from email clients through to chat applications to kind of document collaboration, any of those apps that can help you collaborate. Personally, when I'm thinking about productivity tools or productivity suites, it's more about those suites and companies like Google, Microsoft, who brought these various different tools or products lines together. So Hangouts, Gmail, Drives, that you can collaborate and work more effectively. The question, or the interesting question that no one seems to answer, and kind of the elephant in the room, and I hope that one translates. There's a load of, I live in the US now, and I find every now and then I find these terms that don't translate. But the question that no one's asking is, sure, we could be more productive, but is that making us more efficient? Are we working on the right things in this kind of noisier and noisier world that we live in? That's my view on it.
Thank you. On to you, Marcus.
Cool. Yeah. Hey, everyone, first. And thanks, Wyndham, for the insights there. So I'm going to drill down more, I think, on the micro level. So just to kind of get an overview from the sales and marketing perspective. And I think the first thing that really popped into my mind when I saw this question as well was that I remember reading a report recently that sales reps spend, about 40% of their time on selling, and the rest of the time is actually spent on admin work, which is pretty astonishing to think about it, because a lot of value creation time or potential value creation is actually lost in the process. So to really kind of understand or answer this question, I think we need to look at both the sales and marketing perspective. So from a sales perspective, when and I have a sales background myself as well. So when I'm most productive is when I have all the relevant information in one place. So basically, I don't need to switch between different tools, but I really see it in one place, and I can see who's opened my emails, which leads have visited which of my web pages. So basically, all of that information in one place to help understand who are the hottest leads, who should I contact first, which translates into making me more productive in the end. And if I'm a marketeer, it's in my best interest to get all the information about qualified leads in front of the sales rep as effortlessly as possible, without actually having to worry about the process itself. And on the flip side, I'd also like to get that information from the sales team. So I need to know who should I add to the mailing lists, which leads is actually qualified, and make sure my message is sent to the right people. So I also need sales tools communicate with my tool, so that they kind of both come together, and I can actually focus on that value adding or creating value in terms of the marketing landscape. So long story short, I think for me, productivity is all about having tools communicate with each other, so that I can focus on value creation and reduce the time really spent on the boring admin work that no one really wants to do.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you. And I think you're getting right into the question I had next. 2020 is in full gear. What are the key trends that you're seeing in the email engagement? I know that's a lot of marketing and sales involvement. I'd love to hear your opinion on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent question. I mean, so email is a relatively old channel, especially when you compare it to social media, chat, and some of the other newer communication tools or methods out there. But the hard fact is that I think there's about 4 billion people using it at the moment. It's growing. More emails sent every day, and there's a lot happening in this scene. So when it comes to trends, I think one of the most important things really is deliverability and timing, which is more important than ever with the growing number of emails sent. And because the number of emails is growing, more people are sending it. Email clients like Gmail, Outlook, they also tighten their spam policies, for example. And in the end, if the email doesn't reach the inbox, it's game over for you before you even get in front of a pair of eyeballs, right? In front of an actual human. So I think one of the trends is that people are really moving away from big email blasts to all contacts, and instead opt for those more segmented outreach and marketing campaigns that are more personalized and based on a certain trigger. And of course, in the process, relevant content is paramount. Secondly, I think, which is a bit of a controversial thing to say, I guess, as well, is that people are really tired of newsletters, and they're really looking for easily digestible content. And I think everyone can probably relate to this, that you're probably receiving a lot of branded newsletters in your inbox every day, but you don't really look at them, or you might give a quick look and then they go straight to trash. And this is because they all look the same. So what you really want to do is stand out. And it's actually interesting to see that a lot of companies are experimenting with it as well. So they really go back to the basics. So instead of sending out those beautifully polished newsletters that really feel like marketing communications, they opt for more plain text emails instead, that really provide better engagement rates in the end, and they look more personal, so people will interact with it. And with Outfunnel, this is actually the segment of emails we're specialized in as well. And we highly encourage people to send out these types of emails, because it will just get you better results in the end. And I think the third thing, just to top it off as well, is something that I've come across more and more lately as well, is that people crave for stories. And it kind of ties into the previous trend a little bit as well. But people or companies, some of the companies that I follow have really switched from those marketing newsletters of just sending another product update, etc., to more to sharing more of a story from the founder format. So a good example here is a CEO of a media company in the Netherlands called the nextweb.com. And he sends out a weekly newsletter based and shares a story that happened to his life recently. And it's super engaging. It's really interesting. And it's something that I look forward towards to every week, actually. And it's just interesting content. So where I'm getting at, I think it's a fact that the email is a very strong channel still with growing volume. But as a company, it makes it a little bit more challenging also to stand out. So you really need to find kind of your key thing that helps you to stand out and do something different from all the rest. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. I think it's a good transition into, I know personalization is key, and making sure that you're top of mind is key in this conversation and really in getting to your customers and prospects. But I think another really important topic is automation. And a lot of people are talking about automating. So this is a question for Wyndham. Automating is key to scale, but as we know, it's very complicated. And I feel like everyone uses automation across any tool. What does that really mean? And as a product leader, how do you help the customers look at automating their marketing and sales process? What do we tell our customers?
Yeah, I feel like there was more than one question, Olga, so but I'll try and answer them all. I mean, when we go back to automation, it ties this whole productivity thing together, because you can use automation to make your team more effective and make sure they're focusing on the things that really drive and impact your business, which is the stuff where humans need to get involved and humans can they can play an outsized impact. The trick for us when we're looking at automation and when we're looking at any of our partners, including Outfunnel, is we want to make that automation as easy to set up as possible. Automation has always been something that's historically been very challenging. You'd have to pay an SI or professional services team or have an in-house developer kind of set this stuff up. And it would just take a huge amount of time. But when we're looking at automation, we want to make it as easy as possible to be able to set this stuff up, to be able to try things out, see what works, see when you need to get humans involved, see what the key message is for you as a business. And when we're looking at it, we're looking less of features and functionality and more about what are the key jobs that people want to solve. So with Outfunnel and Copper, it's all about bringing sales and marketing closer together, and how do you create a seamless kind of interaction. That's how we're looking at it. And I think you'll see some of the stuff, sorry, Olga, I think you'll see some of without answering your last question about how we bring sales and marketing together, I think you'll see some of that stuff in the demo that Marcus is going to do later. Perfect.
Thank you. And I think to wrap this up from a product perspective and focus on the last key trend, Marcus, this is for you. In today's world, there are so many solutions out there that provide sales productivity. It is very hard to quantify the percentage or the actual scale of productivity increase. How do you help your customers measure their productivity? And again, we want to focus on what are some of the key best practices when it comes to that.
Yeah, thanks, Olga. So yeah, measuring productivity, always a difficult thing, right? And I guess for every company, productivity is different. So there's, it's important to kind of find a common ground there. But I think the way I see it, there's two facets to this. So number one is the subjective experience of the people using the tool, or kind of people who want to be productive. And the second thing is the hard numbers. So when it comes to the subjective side, it's all about how the sales rep actually feels. And if the reality really is that only 40% of the time is spent on sales activities and the rest on admin, then it's probably sales teams are fairly frustrated because of that, right? I mean, they don't want to do admin. They want to close deals. They want to earn their bonuses. And that's really something that drives them. So it's in their best interest to spend as little time on admin as possible. And it's of course hard to put any hard numbers behind this, but with Outfunnel, our aim is really to bridge that gap between sales and marketing, and making tools communicate with each other so that you actually you spend less time on that admin work, and you can actually dedicate your time on closing deals, which should translate to also overall team happiness. And when it comes to hard numbers of providing insight, for example, into how Outfunnel actually, or what is the uptick that Outfunnel provides, then in full transparency, that's an area that we need to do a better job at still. I mean, we already provide actionable data right inside your CRM, and show you which emails your prospects have engaged with, which pages they visit, and also generate a lead score. And I'll show you that in a demo soon. But while this helps to quantify the benefit of Outfunnel and really pin down those hottest leads, what we'd really want to get to, and which is kind of like a holy grail, is show you like an end-to-end reporting of which sales and marketing activities actually lead to the highest number of booked meetings, close rates, and in the end revenue generated for your business. There's still a couple of pieces to the puzzle that we're putting together, but I hope that we'll have something to show already this year on that end. And I think the second part of your question was what are the best practices. So I think there's three things to this. So number one is that find the right tools that work for you and that allow you to spend as little time on admin as possible. Number two is look at what the data is telling you and do it often. So once a month or once a quarter, and find common denominators between, so if you're a sales rep, find common denominators between all the closed deals and all the won deals, and see what makes them tick, right? What provides the uptick there, and then based on that information, adapt your processes. Talk to your marketing team, talk to your colleagues, see what works, what doesn't, and really change based on that. And as Wyndham said before, I think the last thing is automation. So automate whatever you can automate, but with a side note that only do it after you've gone through the process manually, as that way you can find the edge cases and really make your decisions based on data. So that's actually something we did here in Outfunnel as well when we first got started. So we have our onboarding funnel where new deals get added, and in the beginning we did everything manually. We reached out to every single customer, we talked to them, we found out what makes them tick, what leads them to the aha moment, and then based on that we started automating things and seeing how it had an effect on the results. And if anyone's interested, we actually documented the whole process as well. So happy to share this later on as well from our blog.
Perfect. Well, this is wrapping up our Q&A for the product leaders. A quick reminder to submit your questions in the Q&A box or the chat box, and we'll address them. And now I think there's a lot of content that we've covered here, and it's a lot of conceptual and best practices. So we will move on to someone who's actually done this. Oh, I got it removed. Okay, here we go. We have Paul joining us from Defeat International. Hello, Paul.
Hello.
Let's do a quick Q&A with you. Tell us about yourself and your business, please.
Yeah, so I am the Chief Sales Officer and a partner at Defeat International, and Defeat is an oddly vertical corporation in today's world, and we've been at this for almost 30 years, and I've been here almost all of those years except one. So yeah, we've seen a lot. So we're very experienced, I think. And anyway, we manufacture in North Carolina. We manufacture primarily for the sport of cycling. So we are the premier cycling sock brand in the world. We do inline, and so we basically sell retail online. We sell wholesale to some of the largest retailers in the cycling and outdoor space. like REI and MEC and so on, as well as independent bicycle dealers. We have used independent sales reps for most of our history to reach the independent bicycle dealer. And we also have our own in-house sales team that works with primarily our custom products. So we do socks with teams, events, schools, any kind of logo. And it's a very challenging type of manufacturing. So, everything that Marcus was saying, it really resonates with me with regard to how, our sales team, how they use their time, and what Wyndham was saying about productivity. That's really evidenced so clearly at, what we face at Defeat.
Perfect. I think this is a great transition into how do you define success at Defeat?
Yeah. So, we are really, it's not that we're necessarily looking for super explosive growth rates. We want to create a sustainable business, do the right thing for our stakeholders and our employees, because we use a lot of very specific sort of manufacturing and craftsmanship trade type of jobs. And it's just important to have a sustainable growth rate. We like to use recycled materials and locally sourced and grown fibers in our products to really create more of a holistic, sustainable company. And I think that we've been very successful at that, building a global brand from basically one machine. And there was no smoke and mirrors along the way. This was it's been, like I said, we've gone through financial crises. We've burned down our whole factory, burned down a month after 9/11. So a lot of that, and that was before the word CRM was really out there. So just if I could go on a little bit longer, about 5 years ago, I was not in a sales role at Defeat, but I was observing, the challenges of not having a CRM in the organization. And every time we hired a new sales manager, we had to basically start over. We didn't give him a list of contacts, leads, anything like that, and they were starting over. So finally I said, okay, enough's enough. We're going to choose a CRM. And, I made the decision to go with Copper. And a lot of that decision was just the way that Copper was propagating in the background through the use of Gmail. And even though it wasn't heavily used that first year or two, it was amazing to start to really adopt it. And we've expanded the tool throughout our organization. We're probably using Copper right now in ways that Copper hasn't even really conceived, at this point.
I'm sure the product leader on this call would be very curious of what are some ways that you're getting creative with Copper.
Right. Yeah, we're using it in, our manufacturing and scheduling practices and things like that. And, as far as, shall I go on a little bit? I feel like I could, in the interest of time, just let me know when to stop. But I feel like I could say a lot.
I think it's actually a good transition, because the next question that we had for you, what are your key productivity strategies? And I think you went into some of the creative ways you're using tools today. So it'd be good to hear of how you're bridging Copper, Outfunnel, what you're doing that is creative that some people are not thinking of today.
Right. So again, to Marcus's point, I was our marketing person at Defeat, and we had a traditional sales manager. And the traditional sales manager actually didn't want to use Copper felt like it was redundant in his practices and so forth. And, you know, unfortunately, that didn't work out real well, and they're no longer with our organization. But the unfortunate part is that I am stepping into this role of really the title of your presentation here, which is I am bridging the gap between sales and marketing. And it's really, I feel like I'm in a very frontline position, and I'm kind of running through the trenches with my team, you know, trying to also, you know, move from our historical kind of old world legacy sales organization to what we feel is necessary to survive and adapt going forward. Really what we're doing right now is we're adapting very quickly to the changes in the marketplace. And so as far as, you know, practices and tools, you know, where I decided to integrate Outfunnel was to relieve my salespeople from having to do what Marcus is calling admin. But what I would add to that is really you know, there's a lot that you could say within that term admin. There's marketing material creation, there's distribution of that creation, there's the nurturing of relationships that have to happen between the salesperson and I don't want to have to receive all of that and then forward it to my team. What I like about Outfunnel is that it allows me to send things out on behalf of my team, and it's a more personalized sort of relationship nurturing type of marketing and sales technique that helps then funnel those leads and those relationships and inquiries directly to the salesperson. But they don't have the skill set that I do. So I'm trying to play the role of really more of a digital sort of sales manager. So anyway, yeah, we're not a sophisticated organization, but I think that's what makes Defeat really interesting in this case, is we have people wearing a lot of hats and we're experimenting with a lot, but we're not afraid to do that and adapt to the times. And that's why we're still standing here 3 decades on.
No, that's great. Thank you. I think this is very interesting in terms of the transitions and you bridging the gap between sales and marketing. In terms of when you were looking at the technology stack overall, coming into this role and taking over kind of multiple levers, what were your key parameters in evaluations?
Yeah, I looked at it less in the terms of technology stack, and I had to take it more from a one by one thing at a time. And you know, like I said, the first thing was being able to have a more transparent sort of platform between my sales team. It was a way to aggregate those conversations that were happening within email. And what I was really trying to achieve was redundancy, because what we were, you know, when you have email inboxes, we actually had someone in get into a situation. Our lead salesperson had a health scare, which completely took him out of the force for several months. I think it was 6 months or more. And, you know, just surviving that one move was critical to our organization's survival. And we were very fortunate to actually have implemented copper, and we began to lean very heavily on copper as an organization at that point. But that sort of redundancy was really the first thing. So if you call it a technology stack, I mean, to me, it was more of a human redundancy sort of challenge. And, you know, we're not a large organization, so for a company of 1,000 people or more, maybe this is very clear, but for us it was a major step.
Makes sense. Thank you for that. I think the last question would be interesting to understand. If you knew what you know now, what would you tell yourself when you were starting out?
Yeah,
I know it's a tough one.
it's tough because really, I think that we've done really well rolling with the punches over the years, and we, like I said, some of the biggest things that we had to go through weren't things that I could just look back and tell myself. I guess I would tell myself as an organization, just be prepared to really adapt and make those hard decisions and have commitment in the moves that you make. It's imperative to really survive. We've gone through a period of time, without getting too far off track, where there's a lot of brands that I really wonder how sustainable they are as corporations. And being, when you really care for the bottom line and you look at your P&L and you have to make a profit as an organization in order to survive, having that adaptation and making the hard decisions and commitments is where we've survived. So looking back, there was no way that I could have predicted all these things. I mean, we saw a change in consumer behavior. Now we're seeing, this changing from legacy independent salespeople to more of a digital environment where we need to really try to expand our B2B platform. And these are all really major moves for a company our age, but I think our competition doesn't have to let go of if they were a startup from a year or two, they don't have to let go or move on from, say, a legacy sort of sales system to a more modern one. So it's really interesting, and I can't say right now that I could have great advice. I wish we would have made some decisions sooner. That would have been, when you see the writing on the wall, make the decisions. I think that's important.
Yeah, I think that's going to Marcus's point of look at the data and look at the data more often, whether it's weekly or monthly. I think that's such a key, a key point, because we are in constantly evolving industry and environment, and I think that's really important, especially with having tools and the right data in front of you. That's really important. Thank you. I think the audience, please submit any questions for Paul. I think we have a few in the Q&A. And Marcus, I'll stop sharing so you can prep for the demo, and meanwhile we can answer some of the Q&A questions. From Brian, we have a question that's, do you have a favorite email tool that you prefer? I would say in the initial answer, it would be Gmail, because everything we do is within the G Suite world. And if you don't have G Suite, please get it so you can see the full value of Copper and Outfunnel. So that's our chosen email tool. Anyone else? Wyndham, Marcus, Paul?
I think I'm biased in this sense. So Outfunnel, of course, when it comes to sales and marketing comms, but I mean, yeah, Gmail is the way to go on one-to-one communications.
Thank you. We have another question. Any tips for bridging the sales and marketing together in a company where sales and marketing are separate and equal teams? That's a really good one. Who wants to take that?
Yeah, I would. It's a difficult one for the executives at the company to really understand. A lot of times, executives aren't able to realize exactly what's going on where the rubber meets the road, like where Marcus was saying that sales people getting mired down in admin. Until you really see that and experience it, they're not aware of it. So making making any decision makers aware of those challenges and building through that awareness. I think that's important.
Perfect. Marcus and Wyndham, anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, just from personal experience of working at a few different companies, traditionally sales and marketing have been very siloed. I've seen, well, being in product, I get to talk to a lot of different companies. I have seen them moving more together. What we've seen worked, and I know Olga and I have worked at some of the same companies, is when you build what we called an integrated go-to-market team, where they are in the same meetings, they're talking about the same problems, they're all on the same page around what they need to do. So if you do have two separate teams, you just need to bring them as close as possible together, would be my advice.
Marcus, anything to add?
Yeah, I think some very good points have been raised already. And the only thing I would add that I see it on a daily basis. I mean, I run customer success at Outfunnel as well, and do a bunch of calls every day. In terms of tips, I mean, it's it really depends on the company. But I think it comes down to the same things that I mentioned before. Find tools that work for you, and discuss things with the team as well, to understand where do the challenges actually lie, where do you need to work together. So communication overall.
Perfect. I think another one for all of you speakers here. How do you measure reducing the gap between sales and marketing as a copper user and overall? I know we've talked about looking at data. What does that really mean? I think, Paul, would be good to understand from your side, what are you looking from, chief sales officer perspective from marketing and sales?
Yeah, so it depends partially on the channel. So the email marketing that we would do to our wholesale channel, really seeing more conversation from our customers and adoption of our B2B. On the retail side, being able to look at that data and see more activity on defeat.com from retail customers. And, on the custom side, it would, the way I measure it is really in a flow. It's almost like a feel right now for how many leads are coming in and beginning to have a conversation with us. So, that one I don't have pure metrics that I can look at all the time. I have to base that channel more on a feel, but that's how we're doing it right now.
Got it.
We'll hope to get there soon, Paul, to help on that end as well. But I think it ties back to, again, the hard numbers and then the subjective feeling. In the numbers, I mean, if you see an uptick in revenue, that's kind of on a macro perspective, and then on a micro level, how are people feeling in the team, and what do the numbers tell you in terms of the leads converted or booked meetings per week, for example, and the same for marketing, how many leads have been qualified for the sales team. But I mean, there's a bunch of metrics to look at, again, depending on the company run or the team it is.
Perfect. You guys already have good feedback. Someone has been using Outfunnel for the last 10 days and they love it. And in the last question we have on here, if the video will be available later, yes, this will be on demand, and we'll be sharing the recording of the webinar with everyone who's attended. And then, Paul, you have a very eager customer who wants to thank you. Wyndham Hudson, actually, our head of product, has invested more money in his bikes than the cars. So, Wyndham, before we go into the demo, I know you wanted to say something to Paul.
No, it's great having you on and kind of hearing your story. It's great having you a customer both with Copper and Outfunnel. And yes, my wife and I are both avid cyclists, and we have some of your socks, so we're customers of yours as well.
I appreciate that, Wyndham. It's amazing, how many people there are out there riding bikes and cycling and enjoying the outdoors. It's really a broad sport. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Now it's time to go into seeing what it looks like from everything we've been talking about. So if you guys have any more questions, please submit them in the Q&A, but let's move on to the demo. Marcus, on to you.
Fantastic. So just to double check, can you see my screen?
All good?
Yeah, all good. Perfect. All right. So what you see in front of you is actually Outfunnel. And just to kind of come back to what Olga said in the beginning. So the way or where Outfunnel really comes into play is that we are the marketing companion to Copper. And you can use Outfunnel to send emails, track your prospects, web visits. And where the magic of Outfunnel really comes into play is that all of that data is immediately synced back to your CRM and is actually available for the customers. So I've got some screens prepared here. So this is an example contact in Copper. So Buzz Lightyear, one of my favorite movies when I grew up, Toy Story, of course. So how does the lead enrichment or the lead qualification actually looks like, and how does Outfunnel help here? So what you see here on the timeline view, so these are actually all the activities that have been created by Outfunnel. So it's an email that has been sent out through Outfunnel, and based on the customer engagement, this has been synced back here for the sales team to see. So you can see that there's a white paper download email that has been sent. It has been opened, clicked, and there's also a web visit that actually occurred after the person clicked on the email, and you can easily see which pages they visited and how long they actually spent on the page, which is a great way of understanding actually what your lead is interested in, and allows you to actually pinpoint that conversation that you have with that person the next time down to a specific topic, so you know exactly what they're after. And what we actually do is that we take all that data and also turn it into lead score. So something that also appears next to every profile. And then you can easily engage how warm or hot the lead is. And this is really based on the number of page views people have made, the number of emails they've clicked and opened. But to really walk down kind of some of the key features that we offer. So number one, most importantly, is the email campaign, native email tool. And over here, there's two types of campaigns that you can send out through Outfunnel. So you can just send single one-off email campaigns, so great for newsletters or invitations to an event, etc. But where it really gets interesting is drip campaigns. So we call it sequences. Let me just open up this the sequence here that I've prepared. So setting everything up is super simple. So this is just a new sequence that I've created here before. So the first thing and where the Outfunnel ease of use really comes into play is that you don't need to import or export any of your contacts. So as soon as you hook up Copper and Outfunnel, we see all of your Copper contacts, and you can actually send out emails to them. So you can either send an email campaign to all of your contacts, choose a specific tag, a contact type, or lead status. In this case, I've just targeted to a tag called Welcome Nurture. So any person who has this tag would receive this email. And then the email setup itself, I mean, it's fairly straightforward. You can set a delay between emails, but if I open up an email itself, so this is where the personal touch of Outfunnel really comes into play. So you can't create those fancy newsletters here in Outfunnel, not yet at least. And that's why we're also doubling down on that plain text functionality and really making sure that your emails actually get a high engagement rate. And these are the type of emails that actually work with people, that can cut you through the noise. And of course, I mean, in the end, there's content as well that needs to perform, but you need to get the basics right. So in this case, I've created the email already. I've also added a personalized field here into the email, set up some links that lead back to my webpage, and I'm pretty happy with it. So let's go back to the sequence and let's actually activate this campaign. So the campaign is now active. So as soon as there's a new person that is tagged with Welcome Campaign or Welcome Nurture, they would receive this sequence. So let me just go to Gmail. So Copper has this great plugin as well to Gmail, which actually allows you to see all the people or all the information related to the people in that you're emailing with. And let me just open up this email from Andrus here, who just emailed me before saying that he's ready to seal the deal. And what I usually do in this case, I add them actually to that specific Welcome Nurture campaign. So to get things going, you could go back to Copper and tag that person with that label. But in this case, with this plugin, I'll just add this welcome nurture tag to this contact right here, which is actually the trigger to send out the campaign. And because I've set the delay to 0 days, 0 hours, the email should go out right away. So let me just do a quick refresh here. And I hope Anders is opening and engaging with my emails on the other end as well. So you see that the email has been sent. And if I go back to his profile on Copper and do a quick refresh here, you'll see that the data is also synced back to the profile right away. So just give me a minute while this loads.
While it's loading, I have one question for you, Marcus.
Go for it.
Will it be possible to match a specific page on our website with web tracking code? This is from Frederick. So in the use case is landing page for specific promotion.
Gotcha. So currently the web tracking or the lead scoring is really, so if we talk about lead scoring, it's really based on the fact that we look at all your pages that you have on your web page and score them accordingly. So regardless which page they land, but you will be able to see specific pages down here in the reporting or in the activity timeline. So if you have a landing page on your website, you will be able to see that they went to that page and how long they actually stayed on that page. So that information is available. And then just to dig a bit deeper from there, in the future, we'll also be adding functionality to make the lead scoring a bit more advanced. So you could even say that, hey, if someone visits my homepage, that's not really worth anything for my use case in terms of lead scoring. But if they visit that specific landing page, that's where it gets really interesting. And then I want to score that lead very highly so that it would really stand out for me right away. I hope that answered your question, Frederick. I've clicked the refresh here now as well on Anders's profile, and I see that he's actually already opened and clicked on the email, which is great, and that's great insight for me as a sales team. And currently it was just a welcome nurture campaign that I sent, but I mean there's thousands of different use cases that you can do with this. So we've seen our customers tag our contacts with a newsletter tag, and that automatically add them to a newsletter list, for example, to countless of other options there. So that's email. And Outfunnel's own or native email tool is great for those plain text person-looking emails, but fully aware that a lot of people actually use newsletters and want to send still newsletters out there. So if that's the case, we also have a simple two-way integration with MailChimp that allows you to actually sync your corporate contacts automatically to MailChimp and actually keep them up to date. So it works the same way as the campaigns. You choose your segment and sync them to a MailChimp audience together with the fields that you'd like to sync. And secondly, you can sync all the engagement from MailChimp back to Copper. And it appears the same way as it does with Outfunnel's own email tool information. And then last but not least, it's web tracking. So over here, I can actually see that Anders already visited the homepage. So clicked on the link and I can see the visit right here in Outfunnel. But again, it appears immediately also back in Copper. So these are kind of the three key features that we offer at the moment. There's a lot of things that we still want to do there when it comes to then improving our web tracking and allowing you to actually track your anonymous visitors and actually see how many of them convert to improving the email functionality and better lead scoring. So we have big ambitions, big plans, and we're getting better and further every day. And everything or most of the things that we build is really based on customer feedback. And everything that we do is really with one mission: bring the sales and marketing closer together. So
the other question is about your big ambitions and commitments from Frederick is what would be the timeline for the advanced scoring?
Whew, difficult questions here.
Commit some live webinar. Let's go.
Yeah. 2020 commitments. It's hard to say. I mean, I'd love this to happen in Q2 already, but I might be making empty promises. We'd like to get started with a smaller use case first. So there might be something already out there in Q2 when it comes to better lead scoring. But kind of, and that might already kind of solve some of the use cases, but we kind of try to build small things and kind of really work from there. So I mean, Q4 is probably when we really have a good solution out there in terms of lead scoring, but we probably have a working functionality for more advanced features before that on that end.
Perfect.
Cool.
I think we're right at the end.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
Oh, go ahead, Marcus.
Oh, just one final thing that I wanted to say. Sorry to interrupt you there. Is it's super easy to get started. So I mean, usually it takes a lot of time to set up a tool, but with Outfunnel, it's just add your API key here to Outfunnel, and your copy is integrated. So there's no need to export, import anything, and it just works.
We will
So
send
that's it.
information on how to get this set up. The team actually pulled really comprehensive information together, so we'll send that as a follow-up. I think.
I can vouch for that. I did it all by myself.
Amazing.
And I think, Marcus, there's a question for you because Frederick is already a partner of Copper out of Canada. He's wondering how to become a partner of Outfunnel.
So I'm assuming he's meaning affiliate partnership through that. I'm guessing. So we don't have an official affiliate program out there yet, but we welcome all affiliates and also offer a kickback on any customers they refer to us. So really happy to work with partners and see where we can help and kind of try business for both of us.
Sounds good.
And just send me an email, marcus@outfunnel.com, and we can flesh it out there.
Perfect. Well, thank you to our speakers today and for joining and bracing through being on live webinar with your cameras on. Love that everyone got ready for this. And if you guys have any more questions, please let us know. I will send out follow-up and all the information and the recording of the webinar. But thank you so much for attending. Thank you, everybody.
Amazing. Thank you, everyone.
Buddy.